Welcome back to the Casuals Corner podcast. You are joined by myself, Will, and Frankie Gibson. Now, we've been doing the weekly check-ins with Frank, so I'm going to chuck the same question over to you that I have the past couple of weeks because we are on fight week. We are 7 days out, or 6 days out.
Six, yeah.
How are you going? How are you feeling? And what are you doing?
So far, so good. A little bit marked up, but this week, the hard training's done, so I'm just going to make weight and chill. My weight's good. I won't bore you with the numbers, but it's good. I'm shooting distance. I don't cut that much to get to featherweight, so I'm excited. It's the most excited I've been for a fight, so I'm just ready to make that walk.
Little bit of insight for the cutting process, because obviously a lot of people listening, it's a massive part of the sport that you won't necessarily have a great idea on if you aren't actually involved or if you haven't actually done one yourself. So just give us a brief little overview of what it looks like for you maybe throughout the week.
Sure. So at the moment I'm drinking 8 litres of water a day to flush the water out of my system, which seems kind of counterintuitive, right? To lose water weight, drink water, and then I'll reduce carbs because they hold on to water. So that's not fun. I'm doing that from today, so no carbs up until I weigh in. And then from Tuesday I'll reduce sodium. So anything sodium is like salt, sauce, seasoning, anything nice really that you'd want on your food. So it's not fun. I'm drinking loads of water and eating little to no food that's very bland, but that's basically what it is. Obviously, and I probably won't have to sauna the rest of the weight off.
Well, that's the bit that sort of kills some people off sometimes, is having to sit in the sauna for 30 odd minutes when they're completely dehydrated. Obviously, the actual process of drinking a lot of water, cutting everything out, is quite difficult. We were just speaking a little bit off air about the repercussions. What does it actually feel like when you're going through that? Do you feel quite fragile? Are you feeling quite weak, quite drawn out, just lethargic? What's it like?
No, mainly I'm just going to the toilet every 10 minutes. I'm pissing like there's no tomorrow. But I get irritable as the week goes on. I'm in good spirits right now. It's just like tiredness. I suppose you could say weak. I wouldn't want to fight right now, if you know what I mean. But once I'm caloried up, I'm ready to go.
So we've got the strap fight on Saturday.
Yeah.
O2 Bournemouth. I'm not sure if you actually been to the O2 Bournemouth before.
Never.
Yeah, see, it's actually a really good venue. It's a sick venue, so it should be a good little setup. Do you have, obviously, with what you're doing, you don't necessarily have a ton of footage to watch from the fighter. You may know little bits of him. You may have had a little look on Instagram. Do you have a game plan going into this, or are you sort of setting up as just making sure you're as good as you can be?
Yeah, I'd say making sure I'm as good as I can be. I honestly believe that I can win this fight anywhere. I really, really believe that. Whatever presents itself, I think I can win on the feet. I think I can take him down and keep him there. I think I can submit him. So if that presents itself, I'll take it. But if I'm winning on the feet, then who doesn't love a good striking fight, especially when you're winning? So I'm ready for anything. I'm ready for a hard fight. I'm ready for a really, really hard fight. But I'm preparing to take him out.
And if it is an easy night, let's say best case scenario, what are we doing afterwards? Are we hitting the Bournemouth town? That's what I need to know.
We're hitting Bournemouth town. A little birdie's telling me that one of the guys has bought a bar for an after party, so that could be a thought. That could be a thing. I don't know. I'm going to focus on the fight, but definitely. There'll definitely be food.
When he says bar, does he mean that he's converted one of the apartments that he's bought down there into a bar, or does he mean he's actually got a physical location, bar, set up, ready to open?
No, he's making a bar. He's making a bar as we speak. He's getting it done
for the fight, or just general that he's
for the card. He knows a lot of the guys fighting on the card.
Right, okay.
I'd love to say specifically for me, but I don't think it is. Just to throw the after party.
That's quite a good little turnout, actually. You said food, and I know that obviously you've been cutting the calories, and obviously you're just starving, and I've been sending you food porn pictures and videos for the last couple of weeks. I don't actually mean to do that as a horrible torture method. I mean to do it as in, here's a little bit of inspiration that maybe you'd want after your fight, to be fair. What's the one thing that...
I really think...
Go on.
I really think I have a problem with it. I'll just deliberately go out of my way to watch food videos Like I'll just do it. Like no one else really I know does that, but I'll just like mentally torture myself and watch like cooking videos or like look at food. The other day I was smelling fish and chips. Like, I don't know why I do it to myself, but it's just like it's like a form of mental torture, and I've done it for a little bit now. Yeah, honestly, I gave that bag a good whiff. It smelled good. I didn't have any, but yeah, strange.
No, it does.
What
sound
am I
like
craving? You ask.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say just before that, I know it sounds crazy to some people, but I have actually been there. When you just smell that, it gives you... You know that you're not going to eat it, but what it does give you is memory of what that tastes like and the enjoyment it brings, and you sort of revel in that a little bit, because that's better than not having anything at all. So I actually do get that. But what are you craving? What are you going to want to have after the fight? Or maybe even just the day after, to be fair.
It's always pizza for me. It's always pizza. I just think about pizza. I've got a whole rant about pizza, why it's just so great. It's obviously delicious. You don't have to use cutlery. You don't need a plate. You can put it away and come back to it. It's arguably better cold. It's sliced for you. It fits in your hand perfect. You can sit with it on your lap in the box. It's just the perfect food. Pizza's the best.
The most student answer I've ever heard for why
it's just the best.
I've actually,
I love it so much.
I have actually got probably one of my favourite pizza joints, I'm going to say, in the UK.
Oh, wow.
In Bournemouth. So I've got the hookup. Yeah, I have the hookup for pizza in Bournemouth. So we'll definitely get one of them, if not the fish and chips, which also is my favourite fish and chips.
We will do both.
I've got everything you need. Right, let's jump into this week of topics. Obviously, we've been a little bit light on MMA news because there wasn't UFC last weekend, or this weekend, actually. It is only Sunday. We had a couple of events, to be fair, in the combat world. We had some Bellator, which we'll sort of just go over now because I know that you had a... Sure. You had a friend fight, and then you caught a couple of the fights, as did I. Now, Kane Musa was a 2.5 to 1 underdog, which is quite a big underdog, to be fair. I thought a bit too sizable, but good value in money. What did you think of his performance?
Musa always brings it. He's exciting. He doesn't buy into that, like the stats and stuff. I think he's just one of those guys that's always going to go in there and fight as hard as he can. And it was a really good performance. That did you see it? The right body shot to the left hook that sat him down. Yeah, it was clean. That was money. Big fan of Musa. Whenever he fights, remember the last time, but we went to watch him at one Bellator and he was just scrapping. I can't remember the guy's name he was fighting, but he goes to war every time. He's not messing about. So he's always good value. So one to watch in Bellator. Good performance. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I love when you have a knockout or a finishing sequence which is the fundamentals of striking. Like the perfect 1-2. If we look at... This is why I love going a little bit of tangent. That's why I love Lonnie's knockout so much.
Shout out Lonnie Kavanagh.
In his last cage. Yeah, I had to drop that one in there.
Oh, 100%.
Shout out Team Elevate and GB Top Team, to be fair. So... That's why I love that so much, because it's such a simple, foundational move that you learn in the first day of striking. But when it's done to perfection at such a high level and such a high level of caliber opponent, like Kane Musa, that right to the body and the left hook, it's just a real beautiful thing to watch. And I think, like I was saying, it's always a dangerous underdog to have as sizable when it's Kane Musa like that, because like you said, he brings it and he scraps for sure. And
I love it.
Another man that scraps, well, I say scraps, that's not really a great word to describe Yoel Romero, because he does his damage in very energy preserving bursts, and he is now a fighter who has, I would say, mastered the art of conserving his energy first and foremost, and his deadly attacks to when they have the most impact, which is typically the third round. I know you caught this one. What did you think of Romero?
Yeah, I describe it as he lingers, then he pounces. That's how I'd say. It's
sounds
it's
like
how
a few people I know on a night out.
Oh yeah. No names, but you know who you are. A couple Yoel Romeros in the club.
How old is he? 46. 46.
Oh, mate, it's nuts. How are you nearly 50 and you look like that? The body's insane. But yeah, impressive performance. And, Manhoff looked good. He looked sharp. But the size difference was just... It was actually bizarre. And I was watching it live, and Romero looked like he was getting bigger as the fight went on. Like this, I don't know if it was my mind playing tricks because I'm on low calories, but I'm like, he's getting bigger or Manhoff's getting smaller, and it's just a rough fight, for most people. A 46-year-old Yoel Romero.
I think what that was you hallucinating, but also
could be.
That is actually what happens when you realise that you're in a cage with Yoel Romero. And you are getting tired because obviously the legend that is Manhoff, and obviously we'll come on to his retirement in a second. But once you start having your gas tank drained a little bit, and then you have Yoel Romero, who's very fresh, quite typically, in front of you, and he's really hard to put away. That is
he's going to explode at some point.
Exactly. And what I actually loved about what he done is a little bit similar to what we saw with Corey Sandhagen the other day. Slightly different, but he used the level changes early on in the first 2 rounds to really get him biting. And you could see how hard he was sprawling. He was almost like face to the canvas. He was getting his hips back so quick. He didn't use up any energy wrestling too... Well, he had 1 or 2 in the early rounds, but he didn't use it too much to the point of it was going to drain his gas tank. And then in the 3rd round, where he knew that he had that in reserve, he got it. He shot on the double, got him down, and then once you have Yoel Romero, an Olympic silver medalist, on top of you, and you're tired, it's gonna be a long night from there. And round 3, Yoel Romero is a mythical creature which continues to live on, and it was a beautiful performance. And he said he's one of the best 85-pounders in the world, and that's true.
Those elbows, those elbows from hell. Quickly, I need to get this in there. Do you know one thing he did say?
Go on. To the video.
I watched it live. I watched him barking live, and I was laughing so hard out loud. I couldn't believe it. It was so good. It was so good. That was one of my favourite Yoel moments. So good. I love it.
I haven't actively laughed out loud at a MMA event in a very long time. Actively laughed out loud. But that Yoel Romero, when he was biting the cage, like you were saying, I was watching it live. I was watching it happen, and I was thinking, this is brilliant. I went straight on Twitter. And I was like, someone just let me know when that GIF comes out, because I just want to watch that and repeat. And it did, and I played it quite a few times because that was hilarious. He was actually biting through the cage as well on one point. But that's a good way to round off Yoel Romero as a straight up bona fide legend, which
hero.
sort of brings us onto the last fight of the night, which I'll start off by saying had an incredible entrance.
Oh, mate. Gave me goosebumps. Literal goosebumps. It's in your hair. Oh, mate, that's what you dream of. It's the Irish people. Oh, what a feeling that must have been. So good.
When he was actually walking out, I did think, this is the moment that every single fighter who wants to compete at the highest level dreams of. Obviously, you dream of the belts and actually knocking people out, but you dream of that moment, walking out in your home crowd to everyone singing your walkout song, just the hairs on your neck standing up, and everyone...
Oh, mate, I'm getting goosebumps now.
Belting it out. You had the girl on the guitar to introduce it, and it was incredible. What did you actually think of the fight itself? Because I know it wasn't quite as electrifying necessarily as the entrance.
For sure. What a moment that entrance was. I'll definitely rewatch that. But I just think Benson Henderson's too good everywhere. Too much of a vet, too much of a savage. Just mixed it up. Just MMA'd him up. too well. The takedowns to some of the elbows just showed, like, you know, I'm a vet. I've been doing this for a minute. I'm good everywhere. I'm a legit, like, black belt in MMA, you know. So, yeah, tough matchup for Queally. What did you make of it?
It was a tricky one because, like we just said, obviously he was in his hometown. He had incredible support. There was incredible noise. But it got to a point where heart and desire and willing to win just was not enough, like you said, to overcome the veteran moves of Benson Henderson. And when you actually have a look at who he's been in there with, he has one of
I'm just looking at that now.
Incredible resumes of absolute legends all throughout his
Do you have
career.
it on you?
You read it out, because I know there's a couple of Clay Guidas and Jorge Masvidal's in there.
Yeah, so he's got Michael Chandler, he's lost to him, but these are the people he's fought, right? Miles Jury, good opponent. It gets better, bear with. I accept. Sorry, I'm just accepting the cookies. Bear with.
That's a trigger word for you right now.
Yes, it is. Michael Chandler again. Andrei Korshkov. Yeah, he's a champ now, I think. Jorge Masvidal. Donald Cerrone. RDA. Josh Thompson. Pettis. Gilbert Melendez. Nate Diaz. Frankie Edgar twice. Clay Guida. Jim Miller. Pettis again. Cerrone again. Oh, mate, it's nuts. That's about it in terms of big names, but...
When you have a look at that in terms of the CV, in terms of name recognition and legends and icons of the sport, it doesn't get a lot bigger than that. Nate Diaz, Masvidal's, Clay Guida's, Jim Miller. It doesn't...
Cerrone.
These are really the icons of the sport, and a lot of Hall of Famers in there in one. But in terms of the actual fight, as I was saying, he really just got... He got out MMA'd. He got out strategized. He got out... Yeah. He just got out fought by a very intelligent, strategic opponent. And Benson Henderson really is just good everywhere. So it's a really tricky person to beat. His cage grappling was super impressive. His transitions and the way that he just puts it all together was just a lifetime of mixed martial arts. Which, yeah, that kick off the ground, I don't even know what you'd call that.
Yeah. So what, the up kick?
The sort of...
It was like an up kick at the end, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not like an up kick.
Yeah, like the cartwheel kick almost.
Yeah, from the floor.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It was strange. And he does this really weird thing where he'll, like, low kick you, but he'll, like, lift his leg up first to chop it down, so it looks like it's coming to the body. It's really strange, but it was nice fake. His kicks are money.
I did notice that, actually.
Very high
that
level.
Wasn't something that I've picked up before, but I was saying it fooled me. I don't know how much it would have fooled him, but the fake was really good. He was really selling it, and it really does look like it's coming up high and then it comes low. So that was quite interesting. But Bellator again put on a pretty decent event. I think they probably got boosted on a couple of numbers just because of the fact that the UFC weren't on. But it's good to see these events going on in places like Dublin. Obviously, we've got Cage Warriors in Italy in a couple of weeks, so it's quite nice to see Europe getting a little bit of shine, because it's quite exciting, right? Which sort of brings us...
It's good for the sport. It's good for the sport.
Yeah, 100%. And I think selfishly, just for us, when we think of it as fans and places we can travel and go to, it's always quite exciting because there are always options.
Yeah.
Obviously, when it's in Vegas and Atlanta and all places like that,
Sure.
it's going to be a little bit trickier. So the next one on the topic of conversation, and this is quite a big one, to be honest. I want to hear your thoughts on... Khamzat Chimaev wrote a very cryptic tweet this week saying 185. And if I were to get into what I think that means, I think he's moving to 185. What do you reckon about this?
Do you reckon? I reckon that's just like his body count after the fight. Yeah, if I had to... I wouldn't be shocked, to be fair. He's a stud. Yeah, if I had to bet, I'd say it's a move up of weight class. £8 is a lot, you know what I mean? And there's not... welterweight's got some legit wrestlers. Like, the path to gold at 85 is probably a little bit easier. I know he probably doesn't think like that, but life's just going to be easier, and like they're more than winnable fights to get to that strap. What do you think?
Like you said, £8 is a lot, and I think the risk was too high for the UFC to put him in a main event, or even if you think of a title picture, he would actually have to make 170. So that championship weight was a very, very long way off. The one thing I will say to this is the first thing that I thought was pure sadness, because I wanted with my whole heart to see Khamzat Chimaev versus Colby Covington. I wanted that fight.
I'd love nothing more.
And that's what we're going to be starved of, which I am slightly gutted. But like what you were saying, obviously no title is easy, and obviously we preface that, and of course. But you have a look at the 170 division, and you have a look at the grapplers and the wrestlers that you've got in there. And you have a look at the grapplers coming up, the likes of Shavkat Rakhmonov, Sean Brady's of the world.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Beasts.
Leon Edwards at the top of the tree, Kamaru Usman, all very, very good grapplers. When you have a look at 185, a lot less well-credentialed. You have people at the top like Vettori and like Paulo Costa, but they're not storied grapplers like someone like a Sean Brady or a Kamaru Usman. I think when we have a look at matchmaking, I think this leads us to two people, and I want to hear what you think is next for him, because you have the first one, which a lot of people are talking about, Bobby Knuckles, which for anyone is a ridiculously difficult fight, and you can bring us onto that. But the second one that I think makes the most sense in terms of saleability, name recognition, and actually quite winnable for Khamzat Chimaev is Paulo Costa.
Yeah, that's the fight for sure. I'm not trying to see him versus Bobby Knuckles, who's Bobby Knuckles is my favourite fighter, by the way, for those who didn't know that. And they said they liked each other. But yeah, I think that's the fight. 1,000% that's the fight. Costa's kind of coming into this like territory where he's actually coming across really likeable, and he's like the good guy. Before he was a bit of a meathead, a bit of a whatever, but like he's marketing himself really well. And Chimaev is not doing the opposite, but he's going the other end. So like the drama, the matchup, the style, I think it's perfect. I think that I didn't even think of that really off the top of my head, but yeah, that is the match to make, 100%.
The thing that makes me laugh about Paulo Costa, like you said, he's just taken his full 180, and every fan has pretty much forgot that he missed weight by about 20 pounds just a couple of months.
Just didn't fancy it.
Just a couple of months ago. And the funniest thing about that whole ordeal was not the fact of, he said he had, well, he did say he had injuries, to be honest. He didn't come in and just miss weight and have a sad face. He just kind of painted the picture as in it would be disrespectful for him to make weight and you not to change this to 220, and that would be disrespectful to Paulo Costa and the fans.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he's got away with this, but it's kind of
nuts.
Worked, and now he's weirdly this fan favourite. He says he calls Khamzat Chimaev Gourmet Chen Chen, which I don't know why that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
It just makes
I
me
didn't
laugh.
know.
And
so good.
obviously, what the UFC always want is a storyline, and they have the whole UFC PI, Paulo Costa and Jake Shields versus the whole of All Stars Gym. So that is going to be cut into a million promo videos, and I think it's actually a really fun fight. I think it's a really fun fight because the one thing I will say about Khamzat Chimaev is, and obviously you'll know, even just with sort of moving your weight and your body composition changing quite a bit at the moment, but obviously he didn't make 170 and he didn't really get close, but he was also the entire camp and for the however many months before trying to make 170, so you're keeping your body at somewhat of a restriction. So it is interesting, I think, to then go. Obviously, we've seen John Jones on the other end of the spectrum, where he spent 2 years building himself into a heavyweight. I don't think he's going to do that, and I don't think he has to because he's got a bigger frame. But he's not going to be massive. He's not going to be huge at 185. I'm not saying he has to be, but I am interested to see how that stacks up against someone who's going to come in at 200 plus pounds like Paulo Costa. who hits very hard, and who is game. It's almost like a Gilbert Burns, but just heavier, with better striking and less jiu-jitsu, right? So
sure, I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying. He's a beefcake. He's an absolute beefcake. Yeah, I think it's actually a really hard fight for Khamzat. I think it's an even fight. He's just big. Like, I can't imagine. He's not really been controlled, taken down. He's not shown a grappling deficit. I think he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
He is.
If he goes out there and takes down Paulo Costa and submits him straight away, fair fucking play. Like, you're already the real deal, right? You're already the real deal for sure. But it's like, that is an enormous man that is very, very skilled. So, I'd like to see it. What do you think on the actual matchup itself?
I think this fight... Now, Bobby Knuckles is a whole different conversation. And I don't think, if I'm Khamzat Chimaev or his team, I don't think people actually fighting or outside of fight... I don't think sometimes people really appreciate how good Bobby Knuckles is. Because of the way he looks, because of the way he sounds, and I don't know what it is, but he just gets drastically underestimated as a mixed martial artist, and he 100% is on the pound for pound list, in my opinion. There is no two ways about it. You look at who he's beat,
for sure,
and who he's fought, and what he's done to those people, 100%. But I think with the Paulo Costa matchup, this is really the deal breaker for fans, because with every fight, and there always will be, there's a pre-built-in, but he's a weight, I hate the term anyway, but he's a weight bully, he's fighting at 170, Gilbert Burns, like, he's a lot bigger. Okay, so we got rid of that argument. He's not fighting ranked guys because he fought Kevin Holland. Okay, we get rid of that argument.
Always something.
With Paulo Costa. And it's always something. But I think this really gets rid of all the arguments and just says, right, go and show us against a top 5 185er who can grapple, who's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and who hits hard, good cardio. Let's see what you can do. And if he can pass that test, I think that the likes of Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira, they're not going to be sleeping easily. They're not going to be sleeping easily.
Yeah, they're not going to be gagging for that matchup if he does what he does to Costa. No, it's an interesting one as well, because like if you look at number 1 and 2, Adesanya and Pereira, like they are legit specialist strikers. Not to say they can't grapple, but like that's by no means their strength. Do you know what I mean? So like on paper, Chimaev probably is a really hard fight for the pair of them, and vice versa, right? So it's like quite an interesting dilemma. Another thing as well that I was thinking. Like obviously Till's not really ranked at the moment. I don't know if he is, but they are boys. So like that is the same division. That is another bit of parody.
I'm glad you said that actually, because I was thinking this exact thing. Because obviously when he was at 117, he was in the title picture. This was always a lingering conversation, but one which wasn't brought up too much because of the fact that he wasn't actually fighting 185 pounds consistently.
Yeah.
Darren Till with a win over Driscoll's Duplessis in December.
It's a good fight as well.
He will be in the rankings, and with Darren Till having such a huge name, it's you sort of get that Conor McGregor treatment. Obviously not to the extent, but you get that push, and the fact that Adesanya has always been very, very publicly open about wanting the fight with Darren Till. That instantly just brings you to the forefront a little bit more. Now, Darren Till has always been on about that title, and if he's serious about it, they quite easily could cross paths at 185 pounds.
100%.
Do they fight each other though?
I don't think they do. I think what they've got going on is marketing dream, like the Smash Bros. I think they're doing great. I think they boost each other. I think if they fight, it's because they have to. Like they're the clear-cut number 1 contenders. There's no other choice. Like everyone's clamouring for that fight. Unless it's that, I don't think they will. Or for the belt, of course.
What is better than a budding bromance in UFC? I will tell you, budding bromance that fight each other. That is UFC's wet dream. You think of Colby and Jorge Masvidal. That does numbers. If Darren Till and Khamzat ever had to fight each other, the UFC will be absolutely licking their lips. But the last thing I will say on Khamzat Chimaev is, when we have a look at him in this title contention, and I'm not taking away anything that he has done so far, absolutely not. I've been singing his praises for literally years now. I think he's incredible, and what he's doing is incredible. And what he's doing, there isn't really anyone that's ever done it, to be perfectly honest. But when you have a look at the top of that division, because I'm coming back to what you said about specialist strikers. Now, you have a look at Izzy Lesso Pereira. Izzy has made a career and made his success, if you like, of being such a specialist striker that he makes you fight in his conditions, in his realm, in his world, which is striking. He's got a very good takedown defense, and he's very difficult to take down. He's really tall, he's got really long legs, and obviously his distance control and management is so good, it's hard to find your shots, right? Unless you're just shooting way out of range, which obviously he's so good and you'll see. So, again, coming back to what I said earlier about people always say, oh, you haven't done this, you haven't done this. With Khamzat Chimaev, we haven't seen his striking at that next level yet. We've seen his wrestling.
Sure.
We've seen his grappling. We've seen his submission skills. We haven't seen his ability to instigate where the fight goes with his striking. We haven't seen that. And I think when you're coming up against people like Robert Whittaker, and when you're coming up against people like Israel Adesanya, that is just a whole nother ballpark, which is going to be a really, really interesting conversation when that comes about. But
100%.
That pretty much brings us on to the next one, which... Ooh. There's been a lot of conversation around this, and I don't know, I've got a little bit mixed emotions on it, but Raul Rosa Jr. became the youngest UFC fighter in history at 17 years and 6 months old.
Nuts.
Came through the Contender Series. Did you manage to see the fight?
I saw the highlights, I didn't watch the whole fight. It looked... pretty scrappy, to be fair. Give me a rundown of the fight.
So, my first introduction was, it was actually quite funny, because when he first got announced to go on to Dana White's Contender Series, I thought, this boy looks really familiar. I have watched him and his brother in grappling tournaments on UFC Fight Pass.
Oh, nice.
And I was convinced that I messaged him, and I was sure that I did. So I went on to my DMs with him, and he had 1,400 followers, I think, and I DM'd him, like, just watching you, blah, blah, like, great performance. Like, he was slick, like, seriously slick, and really fun to watch. They weren't speaking about MMA on the broadcast or thing, or any sort of transition into that, so I didn't even think of this. But when I saw it happen, obviously I knew he came in as a specialist grappler, so I was really interested to see where his striking was at. Obviously so-so. Obviously. Still very, very green on the striking.
Yeah.
And still very green in the striking defense, especially. The matchup that he had with the fella was probably an oversized flyweight, to be perfectly honest. He was quite small, and I think someone on the commentary mentioned the same. But he was also a grappler. He was also a highly credentialed, obviously not as good, but he was a highly credentialed grappler. So I think the matchup was more favourable, probably, maybe, just because it was always going to go into a grappling realm, if that makes sense, I think. And he just has literally an advantage over so many people. But to give you a breakdown of how the fight went, it was just a case of he was just one step ahead in every sequence.
Yeah.
You know when you watch high-level grappling and the better guy usually just beats the position, right? So he just beats every position.
Yeah.
He had a lot of slick attempts. He had a lot of just simple things that he done very well. Just like passing the guard. Just incredible ability to get into side control so effectively. He nearly got a Pulev stretch, which was pretty impressive. A couple of just... I don't want to say rookie errors, that's not the right word, but a couple of mistakes which you would sort of imagine. I think he thought the fight was going to be a little bit easier than it was. But ultimately, he came in, he was bouncing off the cage walls, which I thought, fuck me, he was jumping and actually bouncing off the walls when he came in. And I thought,
nice.
Even that is impressive, because you could get your toe caught, fall flat on your face, and embarrass yourself in front of national television. Yeah. So, but yeah, so a bit back and forth. That was a little bit of breakdown of what you've seen of him, the fight, and of what you've seen in the media, and just as a 17-year-old coming into the company. What do you see with him? Where can you see this? Not called an experiment.
It's
but
tough,
where do you
right?
see him going?
Yeah, it's tough because once you get into the UFC, don't get me wrong, you can get good matchups, but you're not getting any walkovers by any stretch. So your whole learning and kind of not perfecting your craft, but all that experience is in the UFC, you know. So if you fuck up, you kind of got only so many lives that you can go to. Do you know his record off the top of your head?
I think that takes him on to 6-0 professional fights.
Okay. And he fights at Bantam.
Fights at 135.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, you know. You're not getting any easy nights out in the UFC at bantamweight. So I like it. I'm into it. It's interesting to see where it goes. 17 is so young to be in the UFC. If I think of what I was doing at 17 and fighting in the UFC, it's actually nuts. But fair play, you know. He's obviously got the skills. It's just a case of him maturing in the UFC, and if he can do that.
It's a super tough thing to do, what you just touched on there as well, maturing in the UFC. You hear so many people talk about sometimes being outside of the organisation and the growth that they need, and even just, as you'll know, even just maturing from the ages of 17 to, say, early 20s, 22, not even in a sporting terms, just as a person, there's so much that happens, life experiences and just immaturity that you're growing through.
Sure.
To have all this attention, which the thing is with Raul Rosa Jr. now is every single fight is going to be the same thing. The 17-year-old, the youngest fighter ever, wanting to be the youngest champion ever, because he's obviously come out and openly said that. So you just build up this mountain pressure, and then you add on to that having to actually fight in the toughest organisation, in the toughest division. It's just incredibly hard. And he's come out off the bat and already said, if I could fight a top 5 contender in my debut, I would. Now, a top 5 contender in the bantamweight division is Chito Vera, Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling, Corey Sandhagen. Yeah. So I am not so sure about that yet, and I think he'll learn to sort of slow his roll. But if you think back to what John Jones done at a young age, you realise how crazy this is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think some of them, you need to have that level of confidence almost if you're going to be one of the greats. But there's a fine line between confidence and almost delusion, and it's not to say that he is deluded, but it's you are not ready yet for those guys. Not to say you can't beat them one day, but if you look at the top 5 guys, there's not anyone there that you're just going to take down and keep there, you know. And look through the list, you've got the Dillashaws, Sandhagens, Yan, O'Malley, Sterling. It's killers.
The thing as well is, you'll hear the word, and we speak about it often so much, about experience. What does that actually mean? Well, when you have a look at someone who's 17, or not even 17, just 6-0 as a professional, really, which is quite a lot of fights for a 17-year-old, and the fact that he managed to get that many sanctioned is actually quite impressive. But he's coming into it with a specialist skill set in terms of grappling. You have a look at the top of that division, right? Aljamain Sterling, TJ Dillashaw, everyone that you just mentioned. Yeah. They have all of those things. They have your specialities, but then they also have what's called MMA, which is putting striking and wrestling and grappling and submission, defense, offense, cage work.
World class.
That's another thing. He's been grappling his whole life in terms of a jiu-jitsu setting, but these people have been competing in a cage their whole life, which is actually a really different dynamic, because there's so many different things that happen when you have a cage to defend and actually attack as well. So there's so many pictures that he hasn't seen yet, which these guys at the top of the tree have had experience in and have had to ride out. But like you said, you have to have this delusion. You have to have this confidence to go in and truly believe that you're going to go in and take over. So I am excited, but £135 is the worst division to be a 17-year-old in and taking over, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Which brings us into the next topic. Now, there's not a ton to say on this, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it because I've seen a couple of mixed ideas online. Now, Conor McGregor came out this week and said that he wasn't interested in Floyd Mayweather fight once again, because Floyd came out and said that potentially they were looking at a fight or an exhibition. What do you think? Do you want to see that? Are you interested in that?
Not really. Like, don't get me wrong. If it's on, I will watch it because I'm a hardcore, degenerate fight fan. But I'm not like, oh my god, I need to see that fight. I want to see Conor fight MMA against like Michael Chandler or some shit. You know, I want to see him try and get these wins back at lightweight, or just get back in there and fight in the UFC. Like, I really could not care less about who Floyd fights, if I'm being honest. I'll always watch a McGregor fight. But like, you got Floyd's calling out people like Deji. Floyd said he's going to fight Deji. Deji. Like, what's going on? Like, I know he thinks because Logan Paul had a good fight against him that Deji, but Deji, you're like 3-1 as a no, you're 1-3 as a pro, and like your last fight you won against Fuzi. Like, don't fight Floyd Mayweather.
I hate
it's
how
a nuts
you
world,
know
but
that.
yeah, like
I hate how you know his record and his opponent so well.
yeah, mate. I'm balls deep into the fight game, and even I am not trying to watch McGregor versus Mayweather 2. In MMA, I'll watch it in MMA. I know what's going to happen, but yeah, I'm not trying to see him box. What do you think?
Obviously, Floyd fought last night, actually, and knocked the fella
Did
out.
he?
Yeah, you wouldn't know because there was no promotion to it.
Who did he fight?
They done it out in Japan for Ryzen, and it was an MMA fighter, and he knocked him out. Not obviously, he's not always going to knock everyone out, but he's still good. He's still good, and people.
Oh, mate, yeah.
People kind of think, actually, Logan Paul hit him, Conor McGregor hit him. I might be the one, but he just turns it on and turns it off when he needs to, you know. But
yeah.
I think with Conor McGregor, this is what I believe about Conor McGregor, and we will never know if this is true. And I could be very, very off the mark on this. He has everything. He's achieved everything in mixed martial arts. He's got all the money,
100%.
all the fame, all the accolades. I don't think he's going to look back on his career with regrets. But I think there will be this lingering disappointment in himself if he looks back on his career and sees so much inactivity in what is the prime / twilight years of his MMA career. Because when / if he does come back, yes, it is going to do millions of pay-per-views. Yes, it's going to have a load of media. Yes, it's going to have a load of hype. But there is one fighter which is undefeated in media and knockouts and it is Father Time. And you cannot beat him. And he could find himself where he's been on set for a while recording films, and maybe he boxes a Jake Paul. Maybe he boxes a Floyd Mayweather, and we're looking at 24, 36 months, and we see him back, and now he's 37, and he's lost those sort of 4 years prior, where he actually could have done some quite special things. That's my only thought on that. Do you agree with that? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think MMA is where it's at for McGregor. And the thing is, right, he can be old and grey. Floyd will still fight him far past his prime. And Floyd's not getting any younger, so I think you're bang on. These years, do MMA. Do MMA. What got you to the dance? Your sport. You know what I mean? Like, you can, like, I don't want to say he can go and win the belt again, but, like, he can beat guys. People need to put some respect on McGregor's name in terms of his ability. Like, his level is nuts. Like, I know he got beat by Poirier, then he broke his leg, but like, if you look at like purely performance, like before he got stopped by Poirier, like he was looking razor. He was landing some shots. He was like, his hands looked like they've never looked before. He just got caught by a top level fighter, so he's definitely not lost it. He's just had a bad run. I think he is getting older, yes, but he needs to fight MMA. That is the move. I think I'd love to see him versus Chandler or Gaethje. I'd love that. I'd love nothing more than that. And they'd both take the fight tomorrow.
I think that Justin Gaethje fight is exciting first and foremost. But the weirdest thing about Conor McGregor, he's in this position where he can fight for the title at any point that he decides to come back. And I think that if we are to see Charles beat Islam, now it's a big if, and Charles is definitely one of the greatest lightweights of all time and best UFC fighters of all time. The most submissions.
Sure.
Charles Oliveira is the #1 fighter who went the most fights to a title. I think it's something like 25, which just edged out Michael Bisping. So we have a look at Charles Oliveira and what he's done recently. He's beat 4 of the top 5 in the last 18 months. 4 of the top 5 in the last 18 months, which is obscene. So if he is to go out there and beat Makhachev, big if, he's always called for that Conor McGregor fight, and Conor will step straight back in to a title fight. I'm not saying that he's going to beat him necessarily and win, but if we have a look at stylistically, who's a better matchup for Conor McGregor to walk into the title with, it's going to be someone that is hittable. That's it, really. We know that his cardio's not amazing. We know that his even submission defense is not amazing, which against someone like Charles is going to be difficult. But is Charles hittable? Yes, he is. So there is a chance, and we have seen it play out many a time, that he could get close to finishing him in the first and second round.
Yeah, it's nuts how many fights he's had to the title. You said it's 25 fights before he got a title shot.
Don't quote me. It could even be 28.
But it's there or thereabouts.
Bisping maybe 25,
I'm just looking at McGregor's.
Charles could be 28.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at McGregor's professional record now. McGregor's only had 28 fights, so Charles has had that before a title fight. So that's a nut stat.
Yeah, no, I knew you'd sort of like that one, but it sort of just goes to show.
Good stat.
Charles, I think what always tarnishes this view of Charles, and I hate it, is the fact of his previous losses, and the fact that he's been hurt and knocked down, and it's often forgotten that he is by far one of the most exciting fighters on the roster, and at the moment I would say he is. Actually, to be honest, I'm going to come on record and say Charles Oliveira right now is the most exciting fighter on the UFC roster. Because when you're a UFC champion, there's even more on the line. There's not just a belt. There's brand deals, there's notoriety, there's fame, there's pay-per-view points, there's all these things that are happening not just for you, for your family, for your legacy, for your family's family. There are so many things going on. So to come out and perform like that every time, I mean, come on. The champion has a name, you know?
It's true. When you've got the strap, it's like, I do want to win, but I'm just trying not to lose. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many more stakes on it. So yeah, that is a good point. I was going to disagree, but then you convinced me with your beautifully worded argument. I was going to say that Michael Chandler's probably the most exciting, and it's a good argument for it, but he is not holding the belt. So yeah, good point. Well,
I think just on the last one of that, I think obviously it's so subjective, but when people speak exciting, just in fighting terms, they speak being close to winning, being close to losing, being close to winning, like that.
Yeah.
And I think Charles toes that line better than anyone in
drama show.
In mixed martial arts. Yeah. When he gets dropped and he's just on his back like that, kicking his feet
Starts throwing up his jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
I love it. So
yeah, I need that. I need that in my life.
We can sort of conclude that Casual's Corner is a hard no on the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather rematch, which is
unanimous.
Which is what I've sort of seen coming into it. To be fair, which
I'm glad we agree on this.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Which brings us into our next one. We will bring this up. We sort of have to. Anderson Silva versus Jake Paul. Number one, tell me what you think about the matchup. And number two, tell me what you think happens. You don't have to go into it too much, but I want a rough idea.
I'm actually mixed emotions about the matchup. I love it because it's exciting and I really am intrigued to see how it plays out, but I really, really don't want Jake Paul to knock out Anderson Silva. That'd be dream shattering. That would be dream shattering. But then at the same time, I'm here for the ride. So it's a good fight. It really is. It's a very, very intriguing fight. I don't know. This is exactly what I mean. I don't know how this is going to go. There's so much unknown. My heart is telling me that Anderson's going to school him. But there's part of me that's like, Jake Paul is young and extremely violent and potentially pumped full of testosterone. So it's just hard. What do you think?
I think the problem here are Jake Paul haters, because everyone has brought this on themselves. And it was a great idea until it wasn't. Everyone was saying, well, fight Anderson. Anderson's looked really good, and he's an incredible striker, and he just beat Chavez Jr., and he's one of the best mixed martial arts strikers of all time. And you should go and fight him because you're... And now we've got the matchup. Everyone's a little like, I'm not so sure on this one, because like you said, he's 20, 30 years his junior, potentially pumped full of all sorts of secret juice, and
secret juice
hits pretty hard. Whatever you want to say about Jake Paul, number one, that knockout against Tyron Woodley was not staged, and number two, it was vicious.
Yeah,
that knockout was vicious. So when we have a look at this fight coming into it, it's a little bit nervy for every mixed martial arts fan out there. However, Anderson Silva did actually come out on record, not that I think this actually changes an awful lot, but did say, I'm not representing the MMA community here. My MMA representation stopped when I stopped becoming a UFC fighter, which I actually kind of appreciated and definitely understood. But this is, like I said, this is what everyone asked for, and I think you've got to have your cake and eat it, but I don't think we want this now. I think the closer it gets, the scarier it gets, and we realise that
100%.
The sentence Jake Paul knocking out Anderson Silva being together, how the hell do we live in a world where that is even an option on the table? The world has changed an awful lot in this past 2 years, and
this YouTube boxing space is fucked up.
It's getting kind of scary because you don't know where things are going to go. But what I will say for Jake Paul is I went into the Paul saga, if you like, being not a hater. I'm not actually a hater of anyone really online or any personalities, but just not warm or even familiar to them. However, the more I've watched his interviews, the more I've watched what he's done, the more I watch him as a business mogul and entrepreneur, I massively respect what he's doing. And when you actually have a look at what he's doing, he's not at his core disrespectful. He's not disrespecting fighters. He's not going out of his way to be purposefully dickheads to people. He's playing the fight game. He's selling pay-per-views. He's making money. He's making big fights. And ultimately, he's making people, A, want to tune in to watch him lose, and B, pay for the pay-per-view to see him lose. So, I think it's quite impressive. And one person that I did say, I want to hear what you think about this. One person that I did hear call him out recently, which I actually thought, oh dear, this is actually dangerous for Jake Paul. Let's just say he walks through this fight unscathed. He would have to come out with a win for this to be feasible. Yoel Romero said that he wants to fight him.
Horrible. There's no way he's taking that fight. There's absolutely zero chance. There's not... No, that is funny, though. Of course he said that. Can you imagine just Romero barking at him from across the boxing ring? I don't know what Jake Paul would do. He'd probably crumble. Yeah. But yeah, that fight... I don't think that fight will happen, but back to the Anderson fight. It's just... Or back to Jake Paul, even. He... like you said, he's just a genius marketer, and he'll probably play into that Yoel Romero thing, you know. He'll probably bring it up, probably like say, oh, he's dodging a contract, then Yoel's speaking about it. Like, he's smart. He's like sending fighters contracts that he has no intention of fighting, and they're like, yeah, just been sent a contract by Jake Paul, and he's got all these different ex-fucking UFC fighters promoting him. He's like, yeah, I was never going to fight him. I'm just sending him bullshit contracts. So he plays the game. He's smart. He's like he knows how to create content, you know, and like, sadly, that's what a lot of the fight games is becoming in terms of like driving sales, you know. It's storytelling, it's content, it's media, it's videos, it's drama, it's all of that. So he plays the game better than anyone at the moment. Like, you know, whenever he fights, I'm not going to miss it. I'm sure you probably feel the same. I'll definitely be tuning in to watch him fight Anderson.
Whether people want to admit it or not, they are tuning in, or they are at least watching the highlights of his fight. And what you just said there was perfect, because what a lot of people in the sport, whether it's spectators, fans, or fighters sometimes themselves, what sometimes is overlooked is, yes, this is a combat industry. Yes, this is a fight sport, boxing and MMA. However, in not just combat world, but in just society today, attention is currency. Attention is currency.
Yep.
And Jake Paul understands that arguably better than pretty much everyone in the world right now. And he's just leveraging it to get what he wants, which is basically boxing fights and, in turn, business revenue and brand deals and just craziness all over the world. So,
promotion, yeah.
In terms of a promoter, a self-promoter, and I've heard Eddie Hearn speak about this, who also is quickly becoming one of my favourite people, by the way.
Love Eddie Hearn. I love Eddie Hearn.
I knew who he was, but I wasn't too familiar with him until I watched, he had an interview with Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, and then I've watched him on MMA Hour. And there isn't really many people. I think Volk is number one, who I will click on the interview the quickest. But if Eddie Hearn is on MMA Hour, I click pretty bloody quickly.
Yeah. I watch all his long form interviews, 1000%. Some of the stuff he comes out with, I'm like, brilliant. He's just a normal geezer that's just like doing what he's doing. He's so good.
But he's actually, the thing with Eddie Hearn, he's really, really smart. And he does have
1000%.
a lifetime of experience and a wealth of knowledge. It's really interesting to actually hear how he verbalizes it, because he's got a really good way of conveying things that he's been through and anecdotes and stories, and he's very sort of captivating. But going back to what we were saying, Jake Paul definitely one of the best self-promoters in the game, and now he's turning 100%. That into fighters. And whether people want to like it or not, he marketed Tyron Woodley pretty bloody well. Ben Askren marketed them well, whether it was negatively or positively, marketed them well. And now he's turning that into Amanda Serrano, for example, who's now getting paid $1 million, who previously had never been paid over 50, which is just mad. It's just absolutely outrageous. Which I guess that brings us. There's a couple here, but I want to go over this one quickly, because I know I accidentally spilled the beans a little bit before we jumped on. But
hit me.
Bobby Green, yesterday, I think it was, came out and said the reason that he couldn't fight Jim Miller was because he popped for TRT.
Shit.
And TRT. Now, the story that I heard originally, or the story that I've read online, which comes from a pretty reputable source, which I believe actually came from him indirectly, was he went to Walmart and picked up some product, DHEA. I don't actually know what that is. I just remember reading it. And effectively, it had that in it. Now, what do you think about that first and foremost? And then I'll give you my thoughts to it.
It's one of them, right? Like, if you're an elite athlete like that you know is in a testing pool, you've got to be pretty stringent with what you're putting into your body, you know? It's not ideal, but it's the game. Excuse me. Like, you don't want to have to take time off literal work because you've taken some shit that you didn't mean to. But TRT, it's a hard one. It's a case of whether I buy it or not. Bobby Green's not that old, so I feel like he wouldn't need to get on testosterone. He's super athletic. How old is it?
36.
Okay, he's not young. But he's not old. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know if I buy it or not. He doesn't, he's in good shape, but he doesn't look like outrageously good. What do you think?
With Bobby Green, he's been around forever, quite literally. His performances have never spiked and troughed in regards to output and strength and size and physical change. I know that TRT doesn't always give you a necessary physical difference.
Sure.
But what someone did say, which I did find interesting, is he knows he's in USADA and has been in the UFC and has been drug tested for pretty much the last 20 years. He has never failed a drugs test. He is not fighting for a title. He is not fighting the biggest fight of his life. It is not really anything other than another day at the office for Bobby Green. Now, what would the need, apart from maybe getting on a bit and looking for a competitive advantage, what would the need be for him to cheat at this point in his career? Now, what I imagine it is more so, Bobby Green is a pretty old school guy in regards to how he lives his life, in regards to how he trains, his mindset. He's grown up around MMA from the real roots. So I know for a fact that he hasn't got consultants and nutritionists around him consistently.
He's not that guy.
He really, really isn't. So the fact that there could potentially be a tainted supplement in Walmart that he just wasn't aware of, I 100% buy that, to be perfectly honest. And I'm giving him the fan pass from this one.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd be with you, to be fair.
You see what I mean, though, right? You see what I mean about the fact that he's never been popped before, and he's coming towards the end of his career, and he's not, like I said, he's not fighting for a title, or there's no big change in what he's doing. It doesn't make...
Not a regular.
Exactly. It doesn't really make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long the suspension is going to be, but I'm sure we'll find out in due course. Which sort of brings us up to our last topic before we move into just a couple of fights on the card for this weekend. I have to bring up bemised. Is that the right word? Remissed. I'd be remiss.
Remiss, yeah.
Close. If I didn't bring this up.
Yeah.
Jose Aldo retires from mixed martial arts. Give us some parting thoughts to that.
What a legend. It's madness, really, like, when you think of it. Like, I think he was the champ for, 10 years or something. Something nuts. He started fighting when he was, I think he's maybe, 20 in the WEC or professionally. And he's just been at it for years. Hasn't really slowed down. Knocking people out, moved down a weight class, won belts, fought for belts. It's like, people... You don't use the term legend or Hall of Famer a lot, but legit, legendary, favourite fighters, like Anderson Silva's favourite fighter. So it's hard to put into words, someone that's like that. It's Jose Aldo. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. I do think it's the right time for him, but what a career. Crazy.
Exactly.
People can only dream to do half of what he's done.
Exactly what you said. He's your favourite fighter's favourite fighter. And when you have the likes of John Anik saying he's the only one that he gets starstruck by, it speaks to the level of notoriety, fame, and just royalty that this man really holds on the sport. The thing that sticks out to me the most about Jose Aldo is... I heard Volkanovski speak about his second fight with Max Holloway and the trials and tribulations that he went through in regards to being woke up by USADA, and he then took sleeping pills and was groggy and couldn't fight, and his reactions were slow, and he said that was the moment that he appreciated what Jose Aldo done. Because he, like you said, was undefeated champion for 10 straight years. Now, that's hard to comprehend for anyone, yourself, me, fighters, anyone that hasn't done that. Quite how difficult that is, because turning up to every event, no matter everything going on in your life, your physical ability at that time, your injuries, your mental state, everything going on, to compartmentalize that and to perform at the most elite level and to stay at the top of your game on that one given night every single time for 10 years is just unimaginable. And like you said about him retiring at the right time, I think you're 100% right, because the fact that he managed to move down from a pretty lean 145er anyway to 135 in the twilight end of his career, and to be improving his skills, and to be adapting his game plan, and to be able to understand the game better, preserving his energy better, distributing his attacks better, to do that at 135 and to make a title run, which came to an unceremonious end with the performance and the way it happened with Merab. He didn't get knocked out. He was on a title run, and although he didn't win, I think in terms of a retirement, that is as good as it can go. If you look at past retirements that we've seen, brutal knockouts and just bad losing streaks, that really typifies what he's done in this sport and really goes to show that he was one of the best to ever do it. And I think it's really nice to see that if we just sort of erase that Merab performance from the record books, he went out fighting the best in the best division at the end of his career, which is just absolutely insane, to be perfectly honest. Which, yeah, 100%. Which sort of brings us on to the last couple of points for today. So we'll just have a little look at... I'm just finding the card for this weekend. Obviously, we've got your fight. What time do you reckon you'll be on Saturday, if you were to guess?
6, 7.
Okay.
Hopefully earlier. Okay. I'd like to get out there and just get it done.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll go for a few beverages, 100%.
I think so.
I think the fights start at 9 o'clock, and then the main card starts at 12. So who knows? Maybe we'll catch the end of the card if possible.
Who we got?
But so the main fight is not a star,
not a barn burner. Not a barn burner.
It's Mackenzie Dern versus Yan. I always butcher the last bit.
Yannick Kunitskaya.
Yan Shao Nan. I think I've butchered that. But Mackenzie Dern, I've actually learnt recently, is not Brazilian.
No.
You know this?
There's like her dad is, I think.
Right. Okay.
There's a video on YouTube. It's like the deterioration of Mackenzie Dern's accent. So she started off like 7 years ago sounding really Brazilian, and she slowly just got more American. I'll send it to you after. It's pretty funny. But yeah, her dad's like a jiu-jitsu legend.
That wasn't the video I thought you was going to say, because I was on YouTube the other day and I saw Jeff Sinula, I believe his name is, Jeff Visuals Sinula, and he puts out a lot of content around the Anzac guys, around he put out the Muay Thai training, the Tiger Muay Thai training camp videos and things like that. Ton of views, like millions of views, and very well credentialed. Puts out a 2-minute video of Mackenzie Dern going onto the scales as she strips off and walks onto the scales.
Oh, terrible. Where can I find that? Where can I...
I want to dislike that video. Send me the link.
Yeah, I need to show my disapproval.
But this is a really well-respected man in regards to...
Yeah, it's not a good look.
But the figures as well. As I sat there watching it with the views racked up.
All 2 minutes.
The view racks up. I thought, this is so shameful from you. But I can't even hate you, because I know that you know that this is going to provide a ridiculous amount of tension, which actually reminds me of when Rose versus Carla Esparza, the first one on the Ultimate Fighter, the weigh-ins have 70 million views on YouTube.
There we go.
70 million
Yeah, that's nuts.
views.
That's nuts.
Rose Namajunas beat Carla Esparza, the Ultimate
Number
Fighter.
one.
The Ultimate Fighter. They're pretty... No disrespect, in regards to the most intriguing weigh-ins of all time, kind of low down on the list, really.
It's not up there.
70 million creeps.
That's madness. That's madness. How many of them do you reckon have watched the fight?
Not
many.
I reckon
not many.
A lot of the conversion rate went into the fight, and then they realised it was not as essential as they probably thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I reckon the click-off rate would have been pretty high.
High. A lot of men out in the first 2 minutes.
Quite literally.
100%.
Which brings us on to our coma. I'll gloss over a couple of the ones that I think could be quite exciting.
Sure.
So we've got Randy Brown. Randy Brown. Are you familiar?
wow.
Are you familiar with Randy Brown?
Not overly. The name rings a bell. Was he fight? Does he not fight at 205? Does he?
Jamaican 170-pounder. He finished Alex Oliveira with a one-handed rear naked choke, and it was on that ridiculous card. I think it was. I'm terrible with the numbers. I think it was like 260, where there was just something that happened on absolutely everything. There was, I think, Chris Weidman's leg break was on there potentially.
Uriah Hall,
Yeah.
Chris Weidman. I think Masvidal. I want to say
knockout,
was on that.
the Rose Namajunas head kick. I think it was.
Yeah, the Wei Lee one.
Yeah, there was a there was a heel hook in there, one-armed rear naked. There was literally everything. It was kind of nuts.
Nice.
But he's really putting it together. He's looking really good, actually. You talk about 170 getting quite exciting. Randy Brown he's got a little bit of everything, and he's big as well. He's really, really big at the weight class. And I've actually got his UFC Strike NFT, so I always petition for a win because it leverages.
You feel now connected to him.
But he's fighting Trinaldo.
Oh
yeah,
Francisco Trinaldo.
Yeah, the legend that is Francisco.
That's a hard fight.
Yeah, seriously hard fight, and he's been around for literally ever.
Vet.
Yeah, he's a serious vet, and it's one of those fights that, as a bettor or as someone just making picks, you look at that and think, oh, Francisco Trinaldo, been around forever, like hungry, young, up and comer. Even though Randy Brown is quite experienced, more so than his other sort of opponents, you think, oh, this is an easy win, and then Trinaldo just hits bloody hard, and he's actually really good.
Yeah, he's got bombs.
Yeah, he's actually really good, and he actually puts quite a lot of upsets on betting slips. So yeah, that's quite an exciting one. One that I think, this is an interesting one. So we've got Sadiq Youssef, who was meant to be fighting Giga Chikadze, who pulled out. Right. And now they have put on this fella. I can't remember his name. I can't remember his first name, but his second name is Shyness, who's making his debut at 145 pounds in the UFC. He's a regional champion at 155 and 145, I believe. However, as I was reading into this matchup and I was reading through the comments, I saw someone comment he just beat someone with a 2-104 record. I didn't believe this, so I had to go and do some digging, and that is 100% true. I think it's around there, might be 108, might be 5 and 104, whatever.
Sure,
but
still.
It is all mixed martial arts, 2 wins, 104 losses. 104.
Oh. You would just stop, wouldn't you?
39 straight losses at one point. With a lot of knockouts. It wasn't just decision. It was like KO, armbar, KO.
That's so bad, yeah. I'm like, I'd give up on the dream. Yeah, I mean, is it Sadiq Youssef you said he's fighting?
Who's one of the most complete 145ers as well.
Yeah, that's rough. That's a rough fight. That's one of those sly ones that's in the 145 pound division. Can do everything really well. Super athletic, super fast, accurate, just good, just fucking good. So, You know, that's a tough UFC debut. Is Yusuf ranked?
He's off the top of my head. He is definitely ranked. I'm just thinking whether I want
to say he's like 14.
I think he may even be a little bit higher. I think he may even be in the top 10. Off the top of my head, I can't quite remember. But like what you said, he does everything, and he does everything quite well. And the fact that you're getting Sadiq Yusuf on your debut, I mean, fair play. And obviously he's taken it pretty last minute as well.
He's ranked 12.
12. Okay, yeah. So there's a pretty good guess for him.
Oh, mate.
But 12th in the featherweight division.
The people that are below him though. Barboza, Topuria, and Alex Caceres. Like, that's a fucking stacked division. Sorry, I went off topic.
No, Alex Caceres is actually pretty legit. And yeah, Barboza. Look, I'm in
Barboza.
And Barboza's below him in the rankings. Like, easy.
Come on.
So, I think that you know this fella from TikTok potentially, or maybe that's just how I know. Maybe you don't know him like that. Mike Davis.
What? He's fighting on that card?
Yes.
Is he like a lightweight mixed race guy?
Yes.
Yes. So I don't know him from TikTok. I know him because I watched him on the Tiger Muay Thai tryouts. That's how I know him.
I was actually going to bring that up. I didn't know if you knew that. I only knew that because I kept seeing him put clips up of the Tiger Muay Thai tryouts, and if you have a look quickly, just while I gloss over this, have a look at his record, because he's had a couple of fights. I believe one of them was with the Welsh fellow
Mason Jones. And
he had one with someone else.
He had a hard fight.
I can't remember who.
He fought Sadiq Yusuf though.
Oh, he did. It was Sadiq Yusuf. Was that at 145?
On Contender Series.
Was what?
Yeah, I think so. I'm like 99.9% sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Bear with. Let me just triple check.
The thing with Mike
Davis, because I don't know if the Contender Series goes on their record.
I can't actually remember that off the top of my head. I think it does. I think it goes down as a professional fight. I don't think it's an exhibition.
Yeah. So he fought Mason Jones, Gilbert Burns, cancelled to Giga. Yeah, he got choked out by Burns, and then he lost to Sadiq Yusuf.
Yeah. So this is the thing. He's obviously moved up, and the thing is with him, he's huge. He is absolutely
massive,
huge. So it really could be a case of one of those 145 was just a seriously difficult cut, because he's shredded to the bone anyway. So I don't quite know where he would have lost that extra 10 pounds from. But he's fighting. I won't even attempt to say his first name, but he's fighting Borshev, which he came off the Contender Series as an undefeated, highly touted kickboxer, who then lost a quite convincing unanimous decision to Mark Diakase, and that was when Mark Nurmagomedov.
That's a sick. I love this guy.
Yeah, that was when Mark Nurmagomedov was born. So this is not name value at the top of the card. This is not the most exciting. But when we have a look at actually who's on it, this is a sick kickboxing match.
Yeah. Oh, no, mate, yeah. 100%. I just realised who that was. And, yeah, the level. And, like, the level of the striking in this fight. Yeah, that's a really, really fun fight. I didn't know they were fighting. I'll definitely be tuning in for that. I'll try and get this video. I'll send it to you. Fun thing about, completely random, this Borshev. There's a video of him dancing, like break dancing at Team Alpha Male, and he's really fucking good. Yeah. Like really good. Like, have you seen it?
Well, yeah, I have.
I'm gonna find it.
He's called Santa Claus. That's his nickname.
Yeah, that's it.
And when he dances, he's skillful. He's seriously skillful, and obviously that factors.
I'd love to be able to move like that.
I just tell people I can.
Yeah. Until they say prove it. Until they say prove it.
Well, I just say this is actually me when I was out in Florida. But there's another one on this card that I'm actually really looking forward to, and the fact that this is on the you know what? This is actually a bit of a sleeper card. I'm not even gonna lie. The fact that it's got Mackenzie Dern headline in it is going to turn a lot of people off. But don't sleep on this card, because there's some fun scraps in here, and one of them is Olenek v Latifi at heavyweight. Now,
I like that.
I'm not going to say he's my favourite fighter, obviously, but Alexander Olenek, it's such a mouthful, that name, is, just in respect terms, is one of my favourite fighters, for sure. For sure. He's what, mid-40s? And I think he has 40-odd, I think he has 42 first-round finishes. Yeah. 40 plus first-round finishes. To get 40 fights in mixed martial arts is incredible. To get 40 wins is unheard of. You don't hear with anyone with 40 wins. To get 40 first-round finishes is just absolutely insane. And his submission game is undeniable. And if he gets you to the ground, it can be a very short night. And I had him first round submission last time, and I won a little bit of money on. But this Latifi, obviously he's been training at All Stars Sweden, and I think this is a pretty good scrap. What do you reckon about this one?
Yeah, I like the fight a lot. Remind me who's the opponent again? You said Latifi versus Olenek.
Olenek, yeah.
The one that does not the Von Flute, the boa constrictor.
Yeah.
Yeah, just want to double check I'm thinking of the right guy. Yeah, I like that fight. That's two kind of vets, two like stockier guys that have fought at 205. Good grappling between them. So I reckon they'll bang it out. We'll get two big stocky heavyweights. Well, they're not big heavyweights, I suppose, but stocky guys banging it out. I like that fight. I like both those fights. This is it's a slightly little good card, to be fair. Like, not necessarily name value, but if you're not a filthy casual, then you're in the know, and you know you're in for a good night of fights.
Now I'll bring up I'm gonna give one honourable mention in a second. There's actually a couple, but in fear of running too much longer, I'm gonna bring up this last one that again is on the prelims, and I'm not quite sure how this is made on the prelims, but Brendan Allen versus, I can't remember his first name, Jotko, middleweight, 185 pounds. Now Jotko's coming off the top of my head. He's coming off a decision win against GM3, and Brendan Allen is coming off a loss. He fought
Dorcas.
Did fight Dorcas?
Did he fight Dorcas?
Yeah, I was thinking of the Chris Curtis fight, but I think he would have had a more recent one. How well do you know Brendan Allen?
Not overly. I know Brendan Allen, but like with his style, not overly familiar. I know his opponent a little bit better. Who's the opponent again?
Well, he's Jotko. So he's Jotko's just I'm going to put it out there. I don't say this very often. He's just boring. I think he's had 16 wins, which, again, impressive, but just all via decision. Like, barely any finishes on his card.
Lay and pray.
He's a striker, but he just plays it very, very safe. He's just as safe as you can be in a competitive mixed martial arts fight. Brendan Allen's an actual really good grappler, a really good jiu-jitsu player, and his kickboxing is the thing with Brendan Allen that I always think he's actually still very young. I think he's only 26, 27, and he's good friends with a fella that fought at your gym that trains out in Florida now.
Tuco.
Like really, really good friends with Tuco. And the thing that I always notice with Brendan Allen, he has this just incredible, unwavering confidence, which has obviously made him look, not silly, but has made him look on the wrong side of it sometimes because he's had a few losses recently. But he's been fighting some really tough opponents, and it feels like every fight that we watch Brendan Allen, it's like, is this going to be your coming out party where you sort of just blow the opponent out the water and show why you deserve to sort of be in that conversation at 185 pounds? And looking at this fight, I think this could be it, because like I said, Jotko always plays it very safe, but Brendan Allen is always there for the finish. Sure. And I think he could take him down and possibly submit him. And before we sort of wrap this up, I do just want to say that the Baby Shark, do you know Tabitha Ricci?
No.
Tabitha Ricci
is the Baby Shark.
Is very, what's the word? The same reason that Jeff Sinula got many of you on Mackenzie Dern's weighing in video.
Okay.
Is the same reason that
she's sexy.
Lot of other people are getting a lot of views.
I'm with you.
You may have seen the video of her recently.
Google's Baby Shark.
You may have seen the video of her recently with a watermelon and her cracking it with her biceps potentially.
No, I've not seen it.
You've missed out on
Googling.
you've missed out on some gold. But yeah, Tabitha Farici is a 5'2" bronze Brazilian goddess. To be quite frank with you, and she is fighting Jessica Penne, which always just reminds me of the pasta, to be quite honest. But yeah, that pretty much wraps us up for the card. I usually like to give one to watch on the card, so I am going to do that, and I think that's Andrade Silva fighting. So if that is the case, definitely, I can't actually see because the picture's quite small. But Randy Costa is on the prelims, fighting £135. Now, he's had a couple of tough times recently, but he's got a good skill set. Now, it's just a case of him using a little bit more IQ, and I think that he'll be looking like a much better proposition. But using someone that we haven't spoke about already, I'm going to say keep your eye on Randy Costa in this one, because he's got a tough fight in Canetti, but he does put it together well, just lacks IQ. But I think the last loss is going to play into that quite a bit, and hopefully we're going to see a good Randy Costa. But that pretty much wraps us up for today's fourth episode. It is on Casuals Corner. So obviously we've got your fight this Saturday. Obviously we're gonna take the W. We're gonna have a few beverages, and then we'll recalibrate. Possibly not on the Sunday. Maybe on the Sunday. Maybe we'll rekindle on the Monday. But yeah. That pretty much wraps us up. So once again, as always, thank you to all the listeners. If you've made it this far, whatever you're listening on, please hit a subscribe. If you're on the YouTube, please hit us up with a comment. Let us know your fight predictions for the ones that we've mentioned. Thank you for the engagement. As always, you've been wonderful. We've been Casuals.